for the Clippers, down 2-zip to the Jazz, although keep in mind, the Clips rallied from 2-zip down to beat Dallas last round. The Jazz so good when leading 2-0. Ty Lue, this is not his first rodeo. Utah came out firing early. They shot it so well in game 2. Franchise record 23s. That's Joe Ingles. Utah led 8-0. Ty Lue called a timeout. After the timeout, Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz would struggle. NBA postseason all about so many in-game changes teams will make. And Ty Lue switched it up defensively. That led to the offense getting going. PG-13. Hadn't gone for 30 in 17 straight games. He had it working in this one. Reggie Jackson off the big game in game 2 had it working. He was 4 of 5 from behind the arc in the first half. Spider Mitchell, a 3. Utah going nowhere. Next possession. Mitchell, again, he had 16 in the second quarter. Jazz down 5. Next possession. The claw. That's his trademark. The steal, and then the throwdown in transition. LA in front by 7. 10-point game. George had it working from there. Next possession. George had it working from there, from the Staples Center logo. Second time he's gone over 20 and a half with the Clippers. LA led by 15 at the break. They outscored the Jazz by 23 after the Tyronn Lue timeout. Third quarter, Leonard taking over right down Broadway to throw it down. The lead was 17. The Claw had 12 in the third. Finished the game with 34 points on 14 of 24 shooting. Luke Kennard has had his moments in this postseason. What a weapon off the bench. What a weapon shooting the rock. As he does right there. LA in front by 13. Utah pulled it to within single digits, but really never made it a big threat down the stretch. Look at Mitchell all the way to the bucket. Comes down awkwardly. You can see him not wanting to put pressure on that right leg. He limped to the locker room. That clearly a story after his magnificence in games 1 and 2 of this series. He came back on the court, back on the sidelines, but he could only watch Leonard and the Clips do that. Kawhi goes for 34, George 31. The Clippers are back in this series. PG-13 and company, the Game 3 win.
We needed every bit of it. Like I said, it was a total team win. Our guys that came off the bench was great. PG and Kawhi set the tone. PG early, Kawhi late. And that's what we need, from our two best players to be able to do that and set the table for everyone else, and they did.
And did they ever? George and Leonard, the third duo, each to score at least 20 in their first 10 games of the postseason. A couple of Lakers duos, the only other ones ahead of them. West and Baylor in 62, Shaq and Kobe in 2003. As for Donovan Mitchell, the Jazz star gave this post-game update.
I'm good. That's all I got for you. I'm good. It happened. Situation happened. I feel like I was able to go back, but no need to risk it down 16, 18 at that point. So I'll be fine.
I'm good. Translation, something to keep an eye on. Mitchell has scored at least 30 in 14 of his first 30 career playoff games. That's as many as LeBron and Anthony Davis in their first 30 playoff games as well. Game 3, by the way, the first time the Jazz lost this postseason with Mitchell available.
You like walk-offs, people? We got...
Kawhi Leonard led with 34. Paul George added 31 as the Clippers cut their deficit 2-1 in the second round series against the Utah Jazz. And after the game, PG said, "This is what we do.
That's what we do.
We had to step up and take the challenge." 132 to 106 as they cut the deficit 2-1. I'm Kristen Ledlow. Welcome back into our NBA TV studios. He's 3D. Dennis Scott. Brennan Haywood is over there.
Throwing them gang signs?
No, you know what?
What? I didn't know what you was doing. I just looked up. I saw a lot of weird stuff going on with your hands.
Tell them it's the leave it gang sign.
That's right.
There you go.
I didn't know.
And it's just me and Dennis, and you're not in it.
All right.
Let's talk a little bit about this game, though, because pregame, you guys both told me that the difference here, if the Clippers were to cut their deficit, would be whether or not Kawhi and PG were dominant, and they were.
They were, and B. Will, you and I were talking about in the back, and for you fans at home, it's hard to pinpoint what they went through with Dallas. You lose your first 2 games, you go on the road and win. And then in this series, the home team is taking care of business. And like Paul George answered that question perfectly. You can't pinpoint why this beginning of the game. They were 8-0. Ty Lue calls a quick timeout. They regroup, come out, Reggie Jack hits a 3. They get another stop, and then they start flowing. And B, you've been there before. We as players, we can't pinpoint why it happens, but Ty Lue has learned how to push the right buttons to turn this team around like it did tonight.
Yeah, and it starts with what we're seeing right here from Paul George. You see Paul George getting it done. We knew he had to be aggressive. He had to step up. It couldn't just be Kawhi. It had to be Paul George, and it had to be Paul George early and often as you see him going down the lane right there. Once again, you see Paul George now standing behind the three-point line, but now getting in the line of vision. 3D, how important is that? Don't stand in one area. Get in the line of vision and knock it down. Shooters are going to shoot. Paul George came out aggressive from, oh, my goodness. Look at that step back right there. Took him to step back tech, dropped him off real smooth. But Paul George, the way he attacked the basket, had his shot going early on, that was what set the tone for this team offensively. And then defensively, let's give Tyronn Lue some credit for his game plan. He threw the kitchen sink at Donovan Mitchell. They double-teamed him off pick and rolls with certain players. Then when they did switch to pick and rolls, when he went to ISO, they doubled him. Donovan Mitchell still got his numbers, but, man, he had to work for him. That was a hard 30 tonight. That 40 the other day, or was it 42, whatever it was, it looked easy. This looked like Donovan Mitchell really had to work. Tyronn Lue had an excellent game plan.
Well, Reggie Jackson was also in double-figure scoring with 17, and he's at the podium now. Kawhi Leonard added 34 in the win. He's addressing the media now.
I think we're just playing the flow of the game pretty much, trying to do everything. If it's defense, rebounding the basketball, talking on the floor. Shots gonna go in or not. Our job is to keep being aggressive for ourselves and others. If Paul has it going, we're gonna go to him. If I got it going, it's gonna come to me. But if anybody else on the team has it going, we're gonna try to get them the next shot as well. Reggie played great tonight. Nico also did, and everybody on the bench coming in with energy. Luke making shots, T-Man playing defense, Pat energy. So, we just not really a selfish team. Like I said before, we just want to make the right plays on the floor.
Thanks. We'll go next to Law.
Well, you mentioned after game 2 that you're just trying to take what defense is giving you. You just told Andrew a version of that. What was the defense? What was the difference between what you saw in the first half and what you saw in the second half, beyond just making shots?
That's all it is. It's either gonna go in or not. My job is to stay aggressive. There's no magic to it.
Thanks. Next, we'll go to Farda.
I know you listed a lot of the positives in today's game, but I just want to know if there was one thing you were most impressed with in the transition from game 2 to game 3.
Just our effort. Being more physical, boxing out, getting the rebounds, being more detailed to the game plan. And the biggest thing is that we made shots tonight. We was getting open looks, I believe, in game 2, and we weren't knocking them down. And tonight we knocked them down.
Next, Mark Medina.
Hey, Kawhi, now that you guys have had a second season together and more time to play together, how do you think that the chemistry with you and PG has evolved and improved over time?
It's still evolving. We came in with Doc Rivers last year, and then now we're playing with T. Lue. So, your chemistry is still growing. Like I said before in a few past interviews, Doc and T. Lue are two different coaches. So coming from one, set of plays, going to a new set of plays, you always have to, rebuild a chemistry from there. But like I said, we're just both out there just trying to win a basketball game, and if one of us has it going, one of our teammates, we're going to look for him.
Thanks. Next to Tomer.
Hey, Kawhi, congrats on the win. we're trying to have looked at is in the games you guys have lost, they've been relatively close losses, especially down the stretch. But in some of the wins, you guys have sometimes blown them out. Sometimes won by 10, 15 points. I'm curious, does that tell you anything about this team that even in the losses, when you guys might not be playing well, it's still a close game? Does that really tell you anything?
I mean, you always go back and see what you did wrong with these wins, and if it's a close loss. Like I said, felt like game 2. We had some open looks down the stretch, and we just missed them. That's just the way basketball goes. We all wish we could control the shooting. All of us would be shooting 90% out there, 100%. So, like I said before, it's about playing the right way, knowing if we having defensive breakdowns, and seeing are we executing on offensive end. That's the only thing you can look at. If we're setting screens, are we running hard to our spots, and if you make shots or not, you got to live with it.
Thanks, time for one more. Go ahead, Ramona.
Thanks. Hey, Kawhi, Ty's been talking to us a little bit about you and Paul having to play make a little bit more, especially when you get into the paint and creating for others, playing in that role. Paul especially has been sort of a point guard for you this year. Have you seen that? I know when he puts you in that role, is that different for you? Is it a different approach than you've had in other positions or other years that you've been out there, or is it just an escalation of what was starting last year?
It's definitely growth for me, especially coming into last year. Just really not having that true PG. But it's a challenge. Like I always say, it makes the game more exciting. It's something different that I haven't, been through. But just areas where I could grow at, as a player. So take the challenge and just have fun with it and just play the game.